up Gentry Lee.
Thank you all very much.
Indeed, indeed. So, you are our starman. There is no doubt about it. It's perfectly clear. And I get a sense of kindredship between the two of you. I mean, Robert, is this a continuation of your 6-part series? What caused this?
Well, look, I blame all of this on my parents. It took me to see 2001 when I was 9 years old, which made me want to be a filmmaker, but also kind of just blew my mind. I left flabbergasted. And just, I realized movies could be about, you know, it wasn't just Mary Poppins and Sound of Music, you know, it could be about real things. I've been fascinated ever since with space and all of its dimensions and what it means to us, and the sense that space is a way for us to ask questions about ourselves, ask questions about humans' existence, why we're here, where we're going, what our purpose is in life, how we got here. But rarely do I see all of these things put together. So the reality of science exploration, space exploration, and science fiction, and the widespread belief in UFOs, and all of it, I see it all as a spectrum of human thought. And when I met Gentry, he kind of feels the same way, and was feeling, and my God, here I was with a guy, the living link to Arthur C. Clarke and 2001 and Carl Sagan. You know, he's the last of these 20th century legends of space.
Well, and that leads to one thing that, I mean, I'm so fascinated when you find such a compelling character. Did you meet Gentry first, or were you making the film?
Yeah, no, Ray Rothrock, my producer, who's over here, he conceived of the whole thing and introduced me to Gentry, and I think we just had a wonderful talk at JPL and went out to dinner, and it was clear to me that I'd found somebody that not only did I want to make a film about them, but I didn't want to put anybody else in the film.
And I agree, totally.
Can you imagine interviewing somebody else? Like, it just wouldn't work.
No. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you all for being such an enthusiastic audience, and I want to share with you, I am one of the most fortunate human beings that you will ever run into. If you had told me when I was a lonely 10-year-old wreaking havoc with my teachers that my life would be what it has turned out to be, I would not have believed you. And I spent a significant part of my adult life in a one-on-one relationship with the two finest scientific minds of the second half of the 20th century. Imagine what that is like on a daily basis to have that stimulation going on. Now, I'm going to be polemical, and I'm going to ask you guys to allow me to do that tonight. Okay? I believe that what Robert has done in this film is he has captured the importance of caring about knowledge and going after it, whether it be in space or anywhere else. And what I am worried about today is the movement throughout the world that is anti-knowledge.
Hear, hear.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you that if you don't stand up and defend knowledge, it will be gone from you. Now, I'm going to be a little bit didactic. If you were to plot the total amount of human knowledge as a function of time, all the way back to the beginning of history with the Sumerians in 4000 BC, it is not a monotonically increasing function. There have been at least 2 separate times when we had dark ages and the total amount of knowledge that existed dropped. The library at Alexandria contained 1/3 of all the world's knowledge and was burned to the ground by people whose fanatical belief in what was right was being forced on others. That can happen again. And Robert, I told you I was going to do this, so please forgive me. It only will stop if you embrace knowledge not only in yourself, but in the world around you. Yes, space exploration is important, but humans embracing knowledge is even more important.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I did want to ask you, though you've mostly answered it, what you thought of the film. To me, you both brought such, like, this needs to be seen by everybody to encourage exactly what you just spoke of. The knowledge, the awe for our planet, the awe for all of what we have.
Robert did a magnificent job, and I don't think anybody else could have done it as well.
Yeah. What a team. I mean,
somebody asked me what I hoped people would get from this film, and I'm going to use 2 words: inspiration and aspiration. Those 2 words, in my mind, are very, very important. I have 8 sons, and I have worry about the world that they're going to live in. And I tell them, if I've achieved anything in my life, I hope that somewhere out there, and Robert has done this with the film, for which I am thankful, I have touched someone and caused them to be inspired and to aspire.
well done, Robert.
Well, to me, that's the purpose of this. You know, I couldn't agree more.
I know there's probably lots of questions out there. I want to give you a chance to speak to Gentry and Robert, too.
And we are going to run a mic. If you raise your hand, I'll bring it to you.
Great.
I'll get you over here. I actually do run.
Wonderful.
Hi. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. This was an incredible experience watching this, and I learned so much of it. I have a question for Gentry. So, I mean, I'm nowhere nearly as brilliant as you, but I kind of had a similar experience, and obviously, generationally it's different and such, but in my circumstances were different. But anyway, growing up, definitely knowing I was just advanced compared to my peers, knowing I was different, but never having that really fostered, and kind of, for me, it wasn't as much acting out as it was depression. And I've always had like this, what could have been if I were fostered or carried in the right way. Do you have like any times where you look back and think, could things have been different had somebody seen that in me from an earlier age, and not put me in a situation where I felt like I was not properly fostered?
I'm going to try to provide advice, and the first thing that I have to say is I have no scholarship in psychiatry, psychology, or any similar vein, although I am a knowledge junkie, and so I have read a lot of things, which makes me dangerous. Arthur and I talked about this issue a lot. Arthur also had big struggles in his childhood because he was not like everybody else. And he said that there are only 2 ways out if you're outside the box. One is to be destructive and destroy yourself. And the other is to build such an internal self-reliance and confidence that no matter what the people who are inside the box say about you, you are undeterred in your commitment to whatever it is you think is important. If I can share with you some of the big decisions in my life, you have to realize that when I set out to do Cosmos with Carl, the reaction of my colleagues in the aerospace industry was, "What in the world are you doing? You are set up to be one of the leading aerospace engineers in the world, and you're going to go do a TV series? Why in the world?" And then again later on, "You're going to do what? You're going to write science fiction? What do you know about writing science fiction?" Nothing. Now, to come back to your point, somewhere along the way, and I'm going to get emotional. You saw that picture of that lady, Bertha Casey? Oh boy. She took a kid who was just on the brink of being whatever terrible thing you can imagine, and she made me believe it was okay to be different. And that was the beginning, I'm answering your question, of building this solid interior that allowed me to continue to embrace the values that Robert captured in me in this film. Okay?
Captured very well. We've got another question right here.
Ever since I was 5 years old, I was infatuated with Carl Sagan. I am now infatuated with you. Our exploration of our solar system and our universe in this film is wonderful, but I want to present you with a question that goes beyond. Nowadays, we learn about the multiverse, and I'm curious how you can bring that to the human understanding.
Okay, this could be a down a rat hole discussion, but I'm going to spare you all a detailed discussion of quantum mechanics, dark energy, and the first 10 to the minus 27th seconds of the universe. There are many intellectual concepts and mathematical concepts that suggest that we live, the world that we live in, the 3 dimensions, 4 if you count space that we live in, is only a projection of many, many other dimensions that exist. Now, do I believe the mathematics is correct? Yes. Have I seen mathematics in my life that didn't represent anything that was physics? Yes. Do I think that anything outside the dimensions that I'm familiar with is likely to impact me or my society in any way in the next 100 years? No. Then my mind says, so enjoy the intellectualism of the multiple dimensions, but keep your feet on the ground and try to help what's going on in the 3 dimensions you know.
Nicely said.
Incidentally, I've had all kinds of questions. I have to tell you, one time I was in Ohio, and I was prepared for questions. I'd just given a speech, Joe, if you don't mind. And this lovely young lady sitting in the second row stood up and said, "Oh my, I've so much enjoyed what you said tonight. Can you please tell me what you think about the little green man in the jar at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base?" So multiverses are easy compared to that.
I think you might see why this film took such a long time to make. I have 11 hours of this.
And I can
It's
see.
all good.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. We've got another question there.
How do you inspire people who don't feel that they have any way to aspire to knowledge and a better appreciation of our planet?
It's hard, but let me, if you'll allow me, in one of the Raman novels, which was an amazing experience, and it was, like Arthur said, I wrote them and he edited them. I have a character who wins an award for historical fiction, which happens to be one of my children say, Dad has a passion list that goes on and on and on and on. Historical fiction is one of them. And Mary Renault, and the prize in the book was called the Mary Renault Prize. Anyway, when this man's giving his speech, he says, there are two things that are important in life: learning and loving. Nothing else really matters. When you go out to cause someone to aspire or to inspire them, you have to give them love first, because that opens them up to listen and to try to follow a path of that kind.
There's some advice. Absolutely. We have a question.
Given your love of knowledge and your sense of the possibility of things in the world, I'm curious to know how you would look at climate change today as a scientist, and how you might see a way forward, and to give people a sense of not only hope, but something that they might hold on to work towards.
Okay, I'm going to try to answer that question in as positive a way as I can, but you're going to have to allow me to speak for a couple of minutes about the history. A colleague of mine 35 years ago proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that we were entering a time period in which the earth was going to warm, and it was going to warm in a way that would significantly change what was going on. I thought, naive me, that all that one had to do was to demonstrate with scientific fact what was going on, and people would do something about it. That was when I discovered, by doing a lot of reading and trying to figure out why nothing was happening, that 77% of the US Congress would be defined as scientifically illiterate, and 80% of the legislatures in the states in the United States would be defined as scientifically illiterate. What? 70% of the laws that are passed in this country have a scientific or technological part to them. Having the people who vote on those be scientifically illiterate is a prescription for disaster. So, where are we today? We have climate deniers. Okay. Somebody said, you don't know for a fact that the climate is going to change. And I said, oh, no, I don't. All I know is that every time the CO2 abundance in the atmosphere has been above a greater period, and this has happened at least 15 times, the temperature on the surface of the earth has gone up. Now, does that mean the 16th time it might not happen? True. Okay? I want to point out that there are also a large number of people who believe the earth is flat. Okay? So I was asked on television whether or not I believe in the theory of climate change. Okay, this was by a person who obviously was trying to harass me in some subtle way. And I smiled and I said, I believe in the theory of climate change with the same degree that I believe that 2 + 2 = 4. I said, is that sufficient? Now, what each of us needs to do is, if you encounter someone who does not have the capability of understanding, first of all, school yourself, read the material, understand the history of the planet Earth's climate. well enough that you can relate to the relationship between carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the temperature. You do that first. Then when you encounter someone who may not be able to grasp all that, you simply summarize it. And if you have to use metaphors, that's what I do right now. I use, with the people who don't even know what carbon dioxide is, I use metaphors. And that's perfectly all right. But it's a very important thing to do. Now, somebody said to me, well, if the earth changes, then we change. I said, yes. Unfortunately, we may not be able to change well enough without sacrificing a great number of human beings. But I'm probably talking too much, so I'll wait for the next question.
This is a classic example of the problem with scientific communication. Like with climate change, why do we keep talking about tons of CO2? What the hell is a ton of CO2? And is 100 tons bad? I don't know, 1,000, it's a big number. Million tons? What is a ton of a gas? It doesn't make any sense. But this is how scientists talk about climate change. Gentry, his genius, besides getting us to Mars and planets and everything else, is his ability to communicate complex ideas in ways that ordinary people can understand. And that's what I tried to do with the movie. And it's a unique ability that, as I think Carl Sagan had it, but there hasn't been anybody since, except Gentry, that I know of.
What's your metaphor for this to help people understand it?
Well, I use the aging process in human beings. And I say, you know, there are certain things that you just know for sure. But there can be variations, because one of the things that people talk about climate change, is it going to be this bad, that bad? We don't know the answer to that. Okay. And so I use the process of aging, which everyone seems to sort of understand. You know, it's undeniable. Okay. And whenever there was a piece, and again, I'm going to congratulate Robert on this. My colleagues that I worked with on Viking were wonderful people. Okay. And you remember the pieces where the scientists are talking science, and I mean, do you really believe that a man on the street could care possibly about the scientific chemical equations that the guy was talking about at a press conference? No. When I'm talking to them, I would talk their language. But the reason that I was asked to do a lot of the press conferences on Viking, when I was, did I look weird when I was young? What was that? Okay, I have to tell you why I did that. Okay. Part of it was, you already know that I was a rebel right away, and the landers were built by what was then called the Martin Marietta Corporation, later on merged with Lockheed and became Lockheed Martin. And I worked for them. And all of their executives came to work every day in blue or black suits with white shirts and ties. And the gray-haired man who talked to the president, Jim Martin, who was the project manager, kept promoting me in the thing. And I had a session with the Martin Marietta executives. All of them, they looked exactly the same. They looked at me and they said, you know, if we weren't being told by the customer to promote you, you wouldn't be promoted because you're not one of us. I went home that night and tried to figure out how many outfits of garishness could I possibly put together to put them in their place.
It was the 70s.
And it was the 70s, yes it was.
Wow.
And he has 11 hours of it.
Wow. I think there's going to be a sequel.
No.
Maybe a podcast.
Yeah. Maybe a podcast, yeah.
So we have time for a couple more questions, I think?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right here.
Are any of your 8 sons interested in your line of work?
Okay, now, my parenting approach is, my job is to let them see the menu, not to make the choices for them. Now, I will tell you, with their mothers, I have sometimes quarreled on this very subject. Okay? And so they each follow their own path. And I have always said to them, when they have said, sort of questioning, do you approve? I said, it is your character that is most important to me, not what you do. It's who you are, not what you do. Yes, I have one son who teaches, is a professor of mathematics. I guess that's sort of related to what I do. I have another son that does work at JPL. But in general, they do their own thing. But as I said, what I care about is, are they the kind of people that I would like to say represent a solid member in the human society?
And I have a suggestion just based on the learning that is going on through your films is, I think, a children's book, something that kids would read and their parents would read to them, like the Lorax, but based, coming from you. That could be really impactful. Have you ever thought of that?
Dr. Seuss.
I've probably thought about all kinds of things, including that at one time or another. And I will just give you all, I'm 83 now. Okay. I'm 83 years young, and I've been very, very fortunate. At least so far, I don't have anything. I want to tell you that when you walk out of here tonight, if you were to ask yourself, what single attribute does my life demonstrate? And this is one thing I've never stopped thinking about. It is how to use the wonderful time that you are here on earth to the greatest possible use. I have had not one, not two, but 3 different careers. And I have relished every one of them because of all the things I have been able to learn and because of the people to whom I have been exposed. And with this man making this film, this is now my 4th career, and I'm enjoying it as well. So I want to thank you all so much again for coming. And I'm asking you to go out of here and take what you felt and thought and spread it to your friends and family.
Thank you for that. One more word.
I just want to say one plug for the movie. We're doing festivals now. We will be rolling it out probably in the fall. And we really count on people like yourselves to spread the word, to tell your friends, to encourage them to go see the film. So thank you so much. It's been a real honor to be here.
And thank you both so much.